That, the findings of the state comptroller were included in our grand jury investigation. They went into the matrix of the employment overcharges that he had in all of his employers. We frankly found that there was no, I didn't see the benefit of adding a lesser felony charge on that issue. We felt the more serious charge was a grand larceny in the third degree in regard to the savings pool. It certainly was not an indication that we disagreed with the comptroller's findings.
And when you put together that matrix, was there overlapping hours as a detective and a school security guard that
Yes.
went back further, significant amount? Or?
When you say went back further, I answered.
Well, I think the comptroller's office only covered an 09 to 010 span.
Yeah.
Was there more of that going back, and how much?
I don't think, John, I don't think we went back with this Kingston School District prior to the state comptroller. Although, Mayor, you might be able to answer that. But Mr. Tui, the city comptroller has been very helpful in this matter. He's provided a lot of information to us. I'm sorry, I don't know from here exactly the date we went back to comparing. Do you know?
I don't have the exact date, but that investigation is still ongoing. The New York State Comptroller is still here. I had requested a specific review of the entire police department once this information became available to us. With particular to this incident, I don't have the exact date, but we continue to work with the Comptroller's office to have a comprehensive review completed.
And I assume that means you haven't found any double dipping, quote unquote, going back with the other 12 or 13 officers that were also working in both duties, right?
I don't have that information, and the audit's not complete.
Okay.
Is this going to change the way that you record the employees in the police department?
It already has. First, let me just say, I want to thank Holly in the district attorney's office, and I want to thank his staff. This is a difficult day for Kingston. It's a sad day for Kingston, for all of Ulster County. But it is a process that we must go through. I want to, just basically state that we will continue to offer our cooperation with every agency that continues to review the records. John Tui, our city comptroller, has really done an outstanding job in assisting with the various agencies. And we will continue to play that role, to do what it is we have to do, so that we can eventually get this behind us and start rebuilding the Kingston Police Department, start rebuilding the trust of the public to within the Kingston Police Department. It's a very difficult time right now. Our officers work very hard, and our police department certainly should not be judged on the actions of one or two or whatever number of individuals finally are brought to light here. But they're under a stress right now. They continue to work very hard. They continue to provide the necessary protection for the City of Kingston residents and Ulster County residents, and we will continue to stay focused on that mission. In addressing some of the questions that the press had asked here today with regard to changes that have been made, I want to assure the public that we continue to assess how we do business there within the City of Kingston, what additional safeguards can be put in place so that we can avoid this ever happening again. It has been, the changes that we have made have been based on certainly recommendations by the District Attorney's Office, certainly recommendations by the New York State Comptroller's Office, certainly recommendations by our City Comptroller, and we will continue to assess and put checks and balances in, again, so that we safeguard the evidence, so that we safeguard the resources that are given to the City of Kingston, and again, start to once again rebuild the trust within the process, within the agency. So yes, we have made some very significant changes.
Excuse me. I was wondering if somebody could go over the numbers. I think that's one thing that I just need some clarification on. I know there was over $200,000. If we could just summarize the amounts and where they were taken from.
Yes.
Thank you.
The grand jury found that with regard to the City of Kingston, the victim is the City of Kingston, that the sums totaled approximately $130,000. And with regard to his association with the Urgent Task Force, where the county would have been the victim, the sums were $79,000.
And that is where the more than $200,000 figure comes in?
That's correct.
That you mentioned earlier?
Yes.
Okay, there were other smaller amounts that you mentioned as well. Is that related to the bank?
Yes, that's correct.
Can you give me those numbers, please?
Yes. I actually, do you know the amount? It's over $3,000.
It's over $3,000, Ulster Savings Bank.
Over $3,000, the victim being the Ulster Savings Bank.
And was there any money taken from the school?
Well, yes, that allegation is not contained in the indictment. That was a matter that was brought to light. Actually, it was one of the genesis of this investigation, was the state comptroller's findings. But that, we didn't include that in the indictment, only, not suggesting that that information is inaccurate, simply that was a lesser charge, not as serious as these other charges, so we didn't include it in the indictment.
Okay, so when it comes to the indictment, we're talking about $130,000 from the city of Kingston, or more? Is it approximately?
Approximately $130,000 from the city of Kingston.
$79,000 from the county through Urgent Drug Task Force?
Correct.
And more than $300,000?
No, 3,000
Excuse me, 3,000
from the Ulster Savings Bank.
from the Ulster Savings Bank. Is there any other source, any more money when it comes to these, or this?
No.
Okay, thank you.
When you say Ulster County was the victim of that 79,000 in the urgent, that wasn't any money that was provided by the federal government for investigation?
The revenue streams that support these different agencies is somewhat complicated. So I don't know that I could make a categorical statement that there were no sums that would track back to the federal government. I would not make that statement.
Okay.
And you're saying this is the sole act of Mr. Matthews, or are there thoughts that anyone else might have been dipping?
No, our investigation did not lead us to find that any other individual was complicit in these steps.
In the time span that you're talking about, though, there was not any indication at any point that Mr. Matthews had mentioned this, or anybody had any inkling that this might have been taking place. I mean, even dating back to 2002.
That's correct.
Holly, it strikes me, a lot of the things he took, so buy money and seizure money, we're dealing in cash almost exclusively here. Did that make it harder for you guys to audit and him easier to steal?
Steal.
Could you talk to us about that a little bit?
Well, in a word, the answer is yes. I want to be careful not to discuss specific evidentiary matters. Clearly, the cash is a problem for police agencies. We don't like it. It causes problems, and yet, in order to do the business that we do in law enforcement, we need cash. When we go and speak with an informant, we don't use credit cards and checks. So I don't mean to be glib about it, but you understand, cash is a necessary process of what we do in law enforcement. In this instance, the person who was keeping track of the logs and the records and receipts, the person who had control over that, was Timothy Matthews. And in many instances, we found excellent records that lead us to this indictment. In other instances, it was more difficult because there were items that should have been that are no longer there.
And was he putting this money into his account, like in a bank? Or
I don't
was it-
have a comment about that.
When you say that in this case, the person that was keeping logs and receipt was Matthews, are you talking specifically in terms of the drug task force?
Both. If you think back, Tim Matthews has been a police officer in the Kingston Police Department for many, many, many years, and he worked himself up through the ranks. He started out, he was one of the key people that were involved in narcotics investigations in Kingston, long before he was a detective lieutenant.
How long was he?
You know,
Over 20
10
years.
years.
How many years? How many years?